Hello, so today we're going to be talking about the American Civil War and how it affects American culture and history. So it all began with these two groups called the Cavaliers and the Puritans, and they essentially fought over the church's policies and teachings. The Cavaliers were kind of these the Cavaliers were these Roman Catholics, and the Puritans were the Calvinists. And so Queen Elizabeth, the ruler at the time, created this compromise called the Elizabethan Compromise that kind of mixed both their beliefs. And long story short, neither group likes it. And but she's barely able to kind of keep the church together until she dies. Now, once she dies, this guy, King James, comes along, and the Puritans see this kind of as an opportunity to keep pushing their agenda. And so they do, and it becomes a very Calvinistic church, and the Puritans are probably pretty happy about that. But eventually King James dies, and this is where Charles the First comes along. That's King James' son. Now, Charles the First really was kind of more of a Roman Catholic guy unofficially, and so he kind of started shifting the church in that direction and things like that. The Puritans really did not like that. Now, eventually, he decides that he doesn't really want to, that Charles does not really want to, be in wars anymore, and he doesn't want his country to be in wars, because then he can save on taxpayers' money and such. Now, the Puritans see this, at first not really as an opportunity, because they'll kind of start leaving England, or at least some of them, and they go to different places and begin planting their, Calvinistic churches other places. But now that they kind of have their groups spread out, they are able to have more powerful leaders and such. And so they kind of then see an opportunity where if he's not going to be fighting in wars, we could go and kill him. So eventually they do. They go and they kill him, and they behead him outside his house. And at this point, a lot of them start moving to America, and the English Civil War established a cultural divide between the North and the South of America, because there were the Cavaliers that were definitely upset by this, and then the Puritans that were, on board. And so they had very different views. Like, the Puritans did not like sports or holidays or anything like that, whereas the Cavaliers liked that kind of stuff. So the English Civil War led to many of the political views which prompted the Revolutionary War. The Puritans of New England came to America in many cases with a strong dislike for the monarchy and a love for republicanism. And the Puritans emphasized congregationism, which means the local congregation should make the decisions for their church. Puritans liked contracts, and they believed they actually had a contract with God himself, to be loyal to him and such. Now the Puritans believed in consent, that you must say yes to God and concede, and you also can withdraw consent. So in the South, fleeing Cavaliers had to face years of Puritan rule during the English Republic. This meant essentially that they were not really allowed to trade and stuff, and pirates were given the okay to attack their ships and stuff. So Cavaliers were not having a good time. In 1660, the Puritans fell from power in England, and their place came to Restoration, a period which Charles II returned from France to rule, and the Cavaliers were triumphant. So during the reign of Charles II, the South was very glad to see the Cavaliers back in charge, and the North and South Carolina were both named after Latin versions of Charles, and Charleston is likewise a shortened version of Charlestown. So these were all commemorable to Charles II's father, Charles I, who the Cavaliers really liked. And so after the restoration of Charles II and the downfall of the English Puritans, the American Puritans became permanently estranged from their homeland, which basically meant that they had to couldn't really adhere to their holiday things. No holidays was a bit more difficult to follow. Now, instead of capitalizing on its support from the South, Charles II provided supports to reestablishing his authority effectively in America. So, resented in the North by Puritan colonists, Charles II failed to win over his loyal followers in the South. The English Civil War gave America its first taste of independence. A quote from Alistair Coke says, "The independence of the colony has been greatly helped by the lack of strong central government in England before and during the Civil War." So, essentially, England was, and yeah, that's basically the English Civil War provided America with its greatest general, President George Washington, because he kind of came from that whole kind of situation, and yeah, that's kind of how it shaped American culture and history.